Namaskar and hello. My name is storyteller Shraddha Nigavekar and I am from Pune, India. The story that I'm bringing you today is called The Battle Over Breakfast, and it's a personal story from my own childhood. And I'm really happy to share it with you today on Feast's platform. So let's dive right in. When I was about 9 years of age, I was truly super fascinated by the whole world of boarding school. And this fascination was constantly fed by all the books that I read, especially the ones by author Enid Blyton and her beautifully painted pictures of boarding schools and the fun and the adventure that was to be had by all the children that went to boarding school. And I totally fell for it. And I really wanted to go to boarding school. And as life would have it, as luck would have it, my wish came true. When I was 9 years old, my father, who was working in Africa at that time, was unwell and my mother had to go and take care of him from Bombay. So being 9 years of age, I could hardly be left alone at home to fend for myself. So I was carted off to boarding school in a hill station called Panchgani, beautiful place, in a very reputed school, all-girls school called Kimmins High School. And from the moment I landed there, I realized that real life was different from the rosy picture that Enid Blyton had painted in my head. It was very strict, very strict. No midnight parties, no strolling in the meadows, no, access to your tuck boxes whenever you wanted to. Absolutely no pulling pranks on any of the teachers. You had to be very deferential, very, follow the rules all the time, every single time. And no friends. No friends. I did make some acquaintances and friends down the road, but right when I landed, of course, it felt very alone. And it took some time to get used to. And as days turned to weeks and to months, I sort of got used to it and came to a new norm, what was my new norm of living. But there was one niggling problem that was a daily niggling problem that I just could not come to terms with. And that was that every single morning, day in and day out, we were expected to eat porridge for breakfast. And I detested porridge. I did not like the way it smelled. I did not like the way it tasted. I did not like the texture. I did not like the way it looked either. And I forced myself, and with every spoonful that I shoveled down my throat, after some weeks and months, I felt like I was going to throw up every single time I tried to have a bite. And we were expected to finish everything that was on our plate. No wastage of food allowed, of course. Even now, I remember how much I hated to eat porridge. And one day, I had it. So I marched up to our hostel warden, Miss L, who was absolutely not known for her kindness. She was not gentle, not kind, not a motherly figure at all, like all the wardens in the books were, not at all. But I mustered up whatever courage I had and I went up to her and I said, please, Miss L, can I not have porridge for breakfast? Can I please be excused from having porridge? I feel like I'm going to throw up the next time I have another spoonful of porridge. Please excuse me. I don't mind having the rest, the bread, the milk, the eggs, the fruits, everything, but not the porridge, please. And I hardly expected a positive response from her because, like I said, she wasn't very well known for being understanding in the least. So I was pretty surprised when she actually smiled at me. She looked down her nose, through her glasses and down her nose, and she smiled at me. And I was aghast, and I waited. I said, well, of course, dear. You don't have to eat porridge like the rest of the girls do. It's okay. No problem. You can be excused. Huh? And just as I was about to stammer out my thanks, she continued, smiling all the time. You just have to get a written note of permission from Principal Inayat, my darling. Yes, it's such a big decision, you see. I can't take a decision like that all by myself. Please go and get permission from the principal. Well, you know, Miss L was indeed known as the dragon in internal communication between the girls. But if she was the dragon, Principal Inayat was head dragon for sure. And I couldn't even imagine nobody could imagine going to Principal Inayat with a porridge problem. Never. Can't be done. And that's what Miss L was counting on. And when I looked at her, that smile seemed to turn into a smirk. And that triggered something in me. I was angry at the injustice of it all. Away from my family for the first time, not near loved ones, really not wanting to eat the porridge. And she wasn't even trying to, understand my problem. But she's giving me such an insurmountable task of getting a written permission from the principal. And something snapped. I could feel the hot tears well up behind my eyes, but my spine hardened. And I looked up at her through that blur of tears and I said, fine, I'll go and get a permission note from Miss Inayat. And before I could lose all that courage, I spun around. Around me, the whole breakfast table was silent. I just took a quick look at all my friends and I rushed out of that dormitory and broke into a sprint and uphill to the principal's office. I arrived there, huffing and puffing, doubling over, trying to catch my breath, trying to still hold on to that little bitsy bit of courage that I had left in me. And I went and knocked on her door. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Enter, came the command. And I let myself in. I opened the door and I let myself in. And there was Principal Inayat sitting at her desk majestically, just finishing up with her breakfast. Oh my God, I had disturbed her during her breakfast time. But now it couldn't be undone. And she looked me up and down. She said, come on in, child, come on in. And she pushed her breakfast tray away. Said, what is it? What is it so early? What do you need? What's wrong? Miss, I can't have your porridge any longer. I can't have porridge for breakfast any longer. Please, may I be excused? Miss L says that she'll excuse me, but only if you give me a note of permission. Please, can I please have a note of permission? I don't want to eat porridge anymore. Principal Inayat looked at me quizzically. She said, but why? Why, child? You know porridge is healthy for you. Why don't you want to eat porridge, huh? Why? I said, I was at the end of my tether. I was at the end of my tolerance level. And I just was about to just break down in a flood of tears. That dam was going to burst. But I managed to squeak out that I feel like throwing up every time I eat it. Please, can I be excused? Principal Inayat. In that moment, Principal Inayat, I saw her. She snuck a quick glance at her own breakfast tray. And I looked at her breakfast tray too. And you know what I saw? I saw what she was looking at. She was looking at a bowl of untouched porridge lying on her own breakfast tray. And it was now congealed. Yep. And I could see the corners of her mouth twitch a little bit as if she was about to break into a smile. But no, she gained control over herself, and then she snapped her head back and glanced back at me and said, all right, child, one term. I shall give you permission to not eat porridge for one term. But from next term, you've got to eat the porridge, okay? Oh my goodness, I was ecstatic. One term, one term was such a long time. Uske baad dekha jayega. Next term ki baat hai. I was so excited to have that permission for one term. And I saw her flourish her signature on that piece of note, on that permission note. And I took it and I ran back, brandishing it in my hand as if it was a sword. Because I felt like the warrior queen of India, Jhansi ki Rani. And I brandished that note around and I took it straight to Miss L. And yes, I had indeed won the battle over breakfast. Thank you.